Hey everybody, my name is Alyssa Sotelo and I am here with my friend Leah. Leah, thank you so much for coming on today and having a chat with us.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Alyssa.
Of course. So, we start off just by you introducing yourself a little bit? Tell us what you do, tell us about your family.
Sure. So my name is Leah Egwuatu, also go by Lee. I am a native Houstonian, been here all my life. I'm married to Sunny, my college sweetheart. We met at U of H. We both majored in the same thing. We had the same classes. It was so cute. But then we got married in '07. Had a couple of babies. We have 5 kids, and it's been a really wild ride. I've absolutely it's crazy how I've known him over half my life
Mm,
now. It's crazy, but it's been such a blessing.
mm.
And yeah, that's a little bit about me. What do I do? I do a lot.
I see that. I
It's
see
it's
that
it's
online a lot.
it's a crazy juggle, I started a blog in 2012, and it was about fitness, it was about healthy food, and a little bit later, I added on the motherhood piece after we started our family, and that's kind of what I've been doing for like the past decade, blogging. Started my Instagram as well, and I've just been, raising my babies, and I started working with brands, so that's kind of what I do as far as work
Very cool.
um, and my livelihood, but and also, just juggling and raising my babies.
Very cool. Awesome. 5 kids. That's a lot of babies, especially I feel like today people are like 5 kids, like that's a full car, you know? How were you always like wanting to be a mom? Was it some women, some girls grow up and they're like, it's my dream to be a mom, and some women are like, it was not my dream to be a mom, but now like I realized that it is my dream, you know? So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I can say that I desired as a little girl, I did desire to be a mom one day. Didn't think I would have, as many as we have now. But yeah, I desired to be a mom for sure. Just watching my own mom. She was a homemaker. She stayed at home with my brother and I. It was only my brother and I. So we had a small immediate family,
Yeah.
father, mom, and my brother and I. And yeah, I would just watch her. She was just always there for us. I love that she later on in life I learned that yeah, it was a huge sacrifice for her to stay at home with us, but our bond now, it was so worth it. So worth it. And that's absolutely what I want for my children and myself now. And so that's what I strive for. So but yeah, motherhood is was definitely something I wanted to experience and when I was little. And yeah, yeah.
Very cool. Nice. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey into motherhood? What were you doing before, and what were your thoughts whenever you became a mother?
What was I doing before motherhood? So, like I said, Sunny and I met in college. We majored in computer engineering, and so I was being an engineer. I was doing my engineering thing. I did work in the field for a little bit. I did use my degree for a little bit after graduation, and that's also on campus is where I not created, but found my love for exercise and group fitness, right? And
Mm.
so I would take classes on campus, but after I graduated, I was like, well, now what? Definitely not driving to campus just for group fitness, take a group fitness class. And so I found a local gym, took classes there, and I became a group fitness instructor. And so I would teach classes in the morning. Then I would go to work, I would be an engineer. And then even sometimes after work, I would go back to the gym and teach again
Wow.
before I went home. Well, I didn't have any kids then. We had plenty of time.
Right.
It was just Sonny and I. And yeah, so that's where I can say my love for fitness began there. So that's what I was doing before I became a mom.
Hmm.
After our first son was born, again, I went back to, just the way I was raised and the time that I spent with my own mom. And I was like, well, I really do want to stay at home, at least for our first child was a boy. And I was like, at least for his developmental years, I'd like to be at home with him, right? And so I was an IT contractor and my contract expired. And I was like, it's fine. I'm okay with that. I talked to Sonny, my husband, and he was like, yeah, go home for a little bit and spend time with him, and raise him. And he was totally fine with it. And so I did that. I went home, I started my blog, like I said, I started an Instagram, and I was talking about healthy food and exercise. I kept my group fitness job going. That's one thing I did, go to and from with. But other than that, I was at home, yeah,
Very cool.
raising Chiso, our oldest. He just turned 13, so it's so crazy, so crazy.
Um,
But yeah, so after I became a mom, it was just kind of a combination of that, blogging about it. And I was still here making recipes and, just talking to, just building an audience
yep.
that way. And so that's really been the last decade, honestly, as we've added more children, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a combination of that. And so that's what I'm doing now. I've been very fortunate and blessed to be able to work with brands and
Mhm.
contribute to our household monetarily. And so it's just a big, big blessing for sure. Never saw this coming,
Yep.
but I'm so grateful.
That's amazing. Yeah, I feel like a lot of women, whenever they enter motherhood, they're like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to do all the things that I did before. And that's something I hear so often, especially in the comments section, like as I'm doing different videos and stuff and hearing feedback, people are like, well, what about like my lifestyle that I have now and everything? And I'm like, man, but I feel like you're a walking testament of like it's a journey. It's like a beautiful, fulfilling, huge journey that like takes you through twists and turns that you never could have seen coming. But it's all beautiful. So I'd love to hear a little bit about the challenges and some of the rewards of motherhood, of being a mom.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I did want to say before I became a mom, it was a lot of I would hear just from moms that were around me, maybe moms in my group fitness classes that I heard a lot of the old wives' tales. Like people would tell me like when I would tell women, yeah, I want to be a mom someday, just not yet. Newly married, wasn't really thinking about it yet. But yeah, I would hear a lot of the get your rest now, you'll never sleep again,
Right.
enjoy your body now, it's ruined forever and things like that. And those definitely it scared me. It did. I'm like, man, is that really something I want to experience and go through? And coming out and being on the other side of it, I'm just like, man, that's not, it's not everyone's journey. It's just not, it doesn't have to be like that, not at all.
What was it like for you? Like, you did you see the like the complete opposite? You're like, no, like this is like not like that at all, or were you like, well, parts of that's true, but it's part of it.
For sure. Parts of that are true, like the sleep thing, for sure. But it's so temporary. It's so temporary. It's such a short season and goes by that fast. And I'm just like, it's okay. It comes with the territory, so to speak, It's all right. It doesn't last forever, for sure.
Mm.
It's still a beautiful season. Absolutely. And it's not, it's not worth foregoing pregnancy, you know what I mean? Just to go through just such a short period of time. So um, and then the body thing, ruining your body. So because, like I said, I found my love for fitness before I got pregnant. That played a huge part in me staying active, while I was pregnant, and being very careful of what I put into my body while I was pregnant, before, during, and after.
Mhm.
But that really helped my pregnancy process to be
Yeah.
yeah, not as, you know what I mean? It
Mhm.
kept the risks down, the aches and pains, as we progress through our pregnancy and the baby gets bigger, we get bigger. I'm so sorry. That's my
No worries.
daughter.
This is what most of our calls look like is babies are coming in and sit on mom's lap and they're, like so it is not out of the norm to have some kiddos in on calls.
So I'm a postpartum or pre and postnatal fitness specialist,
Mhm.
and I always try to just remind women that just moving your body, being careful of what you put into your body, it plays a huge, huge part in just how you feel, your pregnancy journey. The aches and pains are gonna come as you and baby grow, but you can really lessen that, by the things that you do daily, your healthy habits. And so I think because I was already into fitness, that played a huge part. And so when, women would tell me like, your body will never be the same again. You're going to gain, 100 pounds and things like that. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, coming out of it on the other end
Mm.
after my first pregnancy, and I was like, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It's not as bad as that it's not as bad as women were telling me it would be. And I was like, um, I would do that again. And I did it 4 more times. But
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Just I feel like moms should take the advice that they get, with a grain of salt. Everybody's journey is different. We hear that 50 billion times in pregnancy. Everyone's journey is different, but um, yeah, it's still beautiful. It's all beautiful.
Thank you for sharing that. Honestly, as someone who hasn't had a baby yet, I've heard all of those things. I've heard well, enjoy your body now because it's never going to be like that again. Or,
Right.
like seriously, like the sleepless nights or even things with financially, like people, the dinks is like the big word now, or is that what it's called, right? Dual income, no kids, dinks. That's what they're
Oh
called.
wow, there's an acronym for it. I had no.
Yes, it's a whole thing now, like on social media, the dinks. And so
Mm.
people will make all these videos about like, I'm a dink and this is like what we get to do. Like, and they're traveling all over the place. I'm like, that is not what my husband and I's life looks like now as dinks. Like we don't travel around all the time. We have jobs. Not necessarily what like real life looks like, but that's what is portrayed to people like me, like, oh man, no, it's so great, it's so great. But then I also see this other side because of what line of work I'm in, where I'm like, oh, but there's nothing like family, really. Like there's nothing like it. And like I have a family, my husband and I, and like we're a small little family right now, but like we hope to get bigger. And I think everything you're saying is just encouraging me personally so much that like, oh my gosh, it's not as drama as everyone's making it sound like. Of course there's big things that change, but like we're very drama about it, I think, on the internet.
Oh yeah, on social media for sure, absolutely. But I mean, I can't. It's hard to even like think about my life before children. Like they have just. It's not just them growing, it's me as well. Like God is so intentional. It's just like, whew, my heart has expanded in ways I just never knew it could. They've taught me so much, so much. They've grown me in the areas of patience,
Yeah.
just my heart. I feel like they have just really opened my heart to Christ-like love levels. Like I could watch a movie. I've said this before on Instagram. I could watch a movie before I had kids, and it could be like a really sentimental part. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, I can just look left, right. People are crying all in the theater, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
why are you crying now? Even I can't even I can barely watch the news without you that soft spot, or tearing up. Like, yeah, I immediately put myself in that situation, in that parent's shoes, if it involves especially if it involves a child. But
Yeah.
they made my heart so tender and just much more compassionate,
Mhm.
just for people. Ooh,
That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. And that's I think of whenever I was younger, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to be married or whatever because I was in Bible school and I was like, oh, Paul talks about how it's better to be single because you
mm,
can devout yourself to God. You can devout yourself to his church. I went through this process of realizing like that's true, but also for some people, marriage is absolutely the way to go. And I think of it as like similarly to children. Like if you're able to stay single, like yes, there are pros to being single and being able to devout yourself to the Lord, but also if you get married, there are pros of getting married where you are now in a covenant with another person before God that is unlike any other relationship you will ever have in your life. And it requires you to change. It requires you to morph into a more Christ-like person than you ever looked like before, more servant, a better servant than you ever were before, or it won't work. And that's it. We have two options basically, we either surrender or we don't.
Yeah.
And and that's true for a wife and a husband, serving one another. And that's how, Christ, looks like with the church is they're servants for one another. And we have to die to ourselves daily. But I think on with children, I mean, it's even upped another level where I'm like, oh my gosh, that is an even more deep and real thing where you can understand a little bit more of the Father's love for you,
Right.
love for
Yes.
you, because now you have this child, and that's something I'm looking forward to in motherhood is to finally understand a little bit of that.
That's so beautiful, Alyssa. So beautiful. Yeah, I've often thought about that. The way I'm, looking at them and observing them and seeing how they react in certain situations. God is doing the same thing to me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so beautiful. That perspective,
Thank you.
man. And I often say, marriage, I mean, I've heard this, marriage is a mirror. That's so true. But so are children. Absolutely. They will, ooh, they have humbled me,
Mm.
held me accountable,
Yeah.
and I'm a big believer in apologizing to children when you're wrong. I can be wrong. I'm wrong. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so having to humble yourself and apologize to, you know, your 3-year-old or your 7-year-old or your teen, that's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge. But it's what the father would do. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Oh man.
Yeah. It's so true. That is so good. Yeah. I mean, these relationships that are just different than anyone that you've ever seen before, and there's more responsibility, which is what a lot of people don't want, right? Like we don't want the responsibility because we don't want to have to be, I feel like a lot of us have kind of a hard time with commitment in today's culture. I think we have a hard time with responsibility in today's culture, and children are the biggest commitment and the biggest responsibility, but they also can bring like the most amazing life lessons. They can bring, I mean, the fact that you're so open with like I'm so ready and I want to ask for my children's forgiveness is like that is something so many people will never understand until they're in that position.
Until they're in that position. Exactly.
Never will understand. And then it helps them grow in their other relationships that they wouldn't have known how to grow in unless they had gone through that first. So that's beautiful. I love that. It's amazing. So, my last question is just, do you have any advice for other mothers or people who are expecting a baby soon and might be nervous or just anything? I mean, you're an expert in so many different areas, especially whenever it comes to like health and pregnancy and everything and fitness, but also you're a mom, and so that makes you an expert in a billion things. So,
I advice I would give to a mom to be or a new mom. So like I said, it's been a struggle juggle for
mhm,
me, the last decade or so. But also, I'm a big. I always push that it's still so temporary. It's still such a short window of your entire life when you look back. I often picture myself, um, you know, 20 years down the line or just well past, childbearing age. And I'm like, what I'm, dealing with today, what I'm struggling with today, is it really going to matter? Like, will I look back and just be like, man, I wish I wouldn't have wasted all that time or, dreaded that season so
mm,
hard because, man, it didn't last. It was so temporary. Was it tough? I don't want to, deny the reality that yes, some days are so hard. They just are. But they don't last forever. Um, and again, the window is just so short. And so the the beautiful moments that do happen, in motherhood, hold on to them, hold them dearly. Like even nursing, this is my fifth child. I know it's gonna end soon. I think about it. I think about it often. Like when will our last nursing session be? And it makes me want to cry. But and then there are other days where I'm just like, "Ooh, when is this gonna be over?" Like I don't. It's hot. Like get off me. I don't feel like it. And at the same time, but it's like, it's just, it's a combination of both. But the good times, absolutely, and I hope that for other moms as well, outweigh the bad. when I look back, I'm just like, man, I'm so happy I went through that season. Absolutely. And again, it's so short. I know I say that a lot, but it just goes by so fast. As a mother of five, it goes by so fast, so fast. And the difference between my first child and my fifth child, I already know. Like I just I relished in, you know, when I came home from the hospital with our fifth, and we weren't sleeping. Nobody was sleeping in this house. You know, she let her presence be known. But I knew that, you know, maybe 2, 3 months later, she'd be fine. She'd be sleeping, you know, all night, you
Yeah.
know, or a couple of months later. And so I'm just like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's
Mm.
gonna pass. This too shall pass. And it did. And it did. But the window is just so short. So just try your best to enjoy it. When you look back on your life, you just want to have, you know, pleasant memories, happy memories with your children, you know. Um,
Hmm.
and so yeah,
Yeah.
it's so temporary. So just do your best to enjoy it. Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Oh, thinking about the nursing just made me tear
Oh,
up. I'm just always like, when is our last session? I don't know. I don't know. Motherhood is just so, it has changed my life in countless ways, countless ways. And I love what Save the Storks stands for. I truly do. And I feel like motherhood did not stop me from achieving my dreams. It did not stop me from achieving my dreams. I was still able to, you know, make
yeah.
do some of the goals that I set out for myself.
Okay.
You know, with the kids in tow, you know,
Yeah.
it didn't stop my life. If anything, it magnified my life. It magnified my heart, you know, which is most important than, you know, worldly achievements anyway. So Sonny's Nigerian, he's Igbo. And in their culture, if we were to have gone on the honeymoon and come back home and I was pregnant, that would be a great thing. Like his mom, she's been waiting, you know what I mean? Like as soon as we got married, she's like, all right, where are the babies? Where are they?
Mhm. Yeah.
When is it happening? And so we got married in '07, and around '09, I believe. You know, we're married, of course. We're doing married couple things. I've never been on birth control or anything like that. We didn't use protection, nothing like that. And my period has always been random, sporadic, so I've never been able to pinpoint it. However, it was extra late, and I was like,
Hmm.
well,
Right.
let's could I be pregnant? Let's see. And you know, we did the whole, you know, I peed on the stick and we put it in the bathroom, and you know, I closed the door and we were just kind of both pacing and
Right.
not knowing what to expect. And I went to, it was kind of one of those things where if I am, I am. If I'm not, it's okay. You know, whatever happens. And so I checked and I wasn't, and we kind of, you know, both kind of did this, you know, sigh of relief or whatever. But oddly enough, we kept, you know, doing married couple things, and I wasn't getting pregnant. And so at some point we were just like, if we wanted to get pregnant, this would kind of be a problem because it's not happening, you know. And around that same time, I had become a group fitness instructor, and I got really, really into fitness. And it's funny. Well, it's not funny, but I do have a deep, passionate love for fitness, but it can also be my stumbling block. And what I mean by that is I can get so heavy into it. I was teaching, like I said, I taught a class before work, went to work, taught a class after work. I was teaching like 9, 10 classes a week,
Right.
and it was taking a toll on my body. And I went through something called athletic athletic amenorrhea. I think I said that correctly, but basically my body fat was pretty low. And usually, like figure competitors, bikini competitors, they go through this as well. Your body fat is so super low,
Mm.
you lose your cycle. You lose your cycle. And
Right.
women
Mhm.
naturally need body fat. You know, we have boobs, we have breasts,
Right.
we have butts. You know, and so that is part of what caused my cycle to just disappear. It up and disappeared around 2009.
Mm.
And so that complicated things when it was time for us to grow our family. And yeah, so um, I wanted, that all ties in because when you talk about life, you know, when I would take a pregnancy test and it would be negative, it was devastating, you know. But that time that I got that positive test, even if it was a faint line, that's life.
Yeah.
That's life growing in my belly. And
Mm.
so when it comes to, is it a life? Is it not? No, it's life, of course, at life begins at conception, absolutely positively. And it can't be, life when it's wanted and
Yeah.
cells when it's not. It's always life, always life.
Absolutely.
So yeah, but I just commend you guys for even having the conversation with pro-choice people and people that really ride hard for abortion. It's hard. It's hard to
Yeah.
sorry, it's hard to express and display Christ's love. You know what I mean? When you're talking about topics like that, they're just really, it's just really, it's a really hard conversation
Yeah.
to have. And I think if you want to change people's minds, if you want to convince them, you can't, be combative and go back and forth with them, but just
Yeah.
tell them God's truth. And
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a skill. Seriously, that's a skill.
Thank you so much. And like the Lord guides us all in these conversations, and I think that if we hold tight to like objective truth, that is what we have to do in today's society, is that people just don't believe in any objectives anymore. They're like, well, it's your truth. It's your truth. And
Yeah.
it's gone so far from being a nation with its foundation built on Christ, which allowed us to have objective, to now this subjective society that have no concept of right and wrong.
And honestly, I can think back before I had children about how you hear the propaganda and the lies, really, like the my body my choice rhetoric. Like I can honestly say, Alyssa, that I used to be pro-choice just from hearing that I was just basically regurgitating the things that I heard, but when you really sit and think about it, well, my body my choice to do what? These are my choices. Like, wow, I don't want that choice. I don't want the choice to end my baby's life.
Abs-
But it's you have to, I don't know what to call it, maybe be, I don't know, I don't know, a come to Jesus meeting, I don't know, but to really sit and think about what you're saying,
Yeah.
what these choices are.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
the
so I
point.
was
Oh, I was just gonna say that's the point of like things like live action or Save the Storks, where we're trying to bring that education to people, where like, they're saying these things, but this is what they
yes.
actually mean by that. And then
Right.
people are
Oh,
like, what?
exactly, exactly. I've seen so many videos where people are just dumbfounded, like, is that really what I was saying? Is that really what I? And then I've seen videos of, honestly, even myself, a large part of me being pro-choice back then were, the lies that I was hearing in my ears, but also I didn't know what abortion looked like. I've never seen the procedure ever until yeah, a couple years ago. Like I think there were people on the street. It was a YouTube channel. It may even been live action. I don't know, but they would ask people, have you ever seen an abortion performed?
That was live action.
Mostly everybody says no. Everybody says no. And even, I know during, it depends on the trimester,
Right.
that determines
Any
how it's
abortion
performed.
or right.
hmm And then they would show, it was a cartoon, it wasn't like the actual thing, but they would show like a cartoon of it being done. And people were just like, I didn't know. I didn't know. And that same conversion happened for me. I was like, wow, let me really think about what abortion really is, what's actually being done, what's actually being performed on these babies. I was like, wow, how could I have backed that up? How could I have stood for that? No, no, no. And that was I can't pinpoint when that happened, but
Yeah.
that did it for me.
Mhm.
That did it for me.
Yeah.
And so it's awesome to see, people in the street, showing people and it's needed because like I said, people don't know what it actually looks like until they see it and most of them are converted right away.
I so appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you again so much for chatting with me and just sharing so much of your story in such a vulnerable way. Seriously, I think that your story is just going to help reach so many women and really, debunking all of those things that people have heard about pregnancy, like it's not true. And family is so beautiful. Having children is so beautiful.